There's a lot of like unemployed Marxists who hang out here. People from all across the political spectrum, but yeah, I spent a lot of time in this cafe and it's just a big part of my community. First time I ever went here was, I think 2 weeks old. The political climate here at the time that I was growing up, it was still a lot more working class. The area has become gentrified significantly. There are a lot more like Teslas around. Housing prices have gone up through the roof, but it still manages to maintain a bit of the grit that it once had. Really formative experiences that I had with activism were within the climate space. So with some of the early pipeline protests, say the Coastal GasLink pipeline protests, when I was in university. So in my second year of university, the Wet'suwet'en protests, that was big. And I remember we organized a student walkout at CapU. That was a really intense experience. I actually graduated from a really small high school called Windsor House on the North Shore. And it was like a democratically run public school. It was unlike any other school in British Columbia at the time. It no longer exists. The reason I mention it is because it was a real community. The motto at Windsor House was room to grow and be yourself, is what they said. Room to grow and be yourself. So it was a small, very community-minded school. And I saw CapU as being a small community-minded school as well. It appealed to me on that level. I didn't really want to go to like a big giant university, so I thought I'd dip my toes at CapU, see how I liked it, and then I never left. The plan was always to transfer after 2 years, but I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't. Like I never went to university with like a career in mind. like I simply there was more things that I wanted to know about. Like there was just knowledge I didn't have, and I wanted to acquire that knowledge. Yeah, so I graduated in April, a year ago, pretty much. As a part of my final graduating project, I decided to do a podcast. This was within the interdisciplinary studies program. So I did this extended undergrad thesis thing, very long. And then to complement that, I also did a podcast. And through that podcast, I ended up getting connected with the party team that I ran with. They were super excited about the podcast because I was discussing, urban issues, civic issues within one of the episodes. And then they offered me a job working with them as a staffer, basically. I took the job and one thing led to another. And then long story short is I ended up running for them in the by-election. Similarities between a civic election and a student election. Well, they're both vicious and they're both hard things to do, emotionally draining, but one of the biggest consistencies is that you're putting your name forward and you're opening yourself up to scrutiny. You're doing something that requires you to stand up and put your hand up. Anyone who does that either at the civic level or who does that at the student level, the university level, they deserve acknowledgement because it's a hard thing to do. Your team is everything, right? And especially in my case, community for me is everything. And I think it's fitting that we're here at the cafe. I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for having a tight-knit group of people supporting me all the time. For me, it comes down to why you're running and what you're looking to get out of it. Why I ran for Student Union originally, all those years ago, was because I thought that we could improve student life. The reason I ran in this civic election was because I thought we could improve civic life. I thought we could improve, I could be a part of helping improve the lives of people in the city of Vancouver. That's the same exact reason why I ran for the student government, was because I thought I could be a part of improving the lives of students at the university. In that instance, I was actually successful, I think, and at least played a small part because I was part of a pretty amazing board at that time. I didn't run because I was looking for a job. I didn't run in this by-election because I was looking for a job either. Nor was I looking for clout or to gain cachet or social capital. I ran in both these elections because A, I thought I could make a difference, and B, I thought it kind of seemed fun. Honestly, I thought it seemed like an interesting experience, a good time, have some laughs. And one of them obviously was a little bit more of a commitment than the other, but still, the reasons remain kind of foundational. One of the biggest adult lessons I've had in the last while is the power and the importance of compromise. You have to consider at what point are you willing to compromise your values, essentially, in order to get along with someone. That, in and of itself, is a really crucial part of doing anything. like in life, like whether, and it's especially prevalent in politics, but those like instances of conflict where you come up against a scenario where you're gonna either, okay, you really wanna work with someone and you wanna get along with them, but they have a conflicting point of view, and how are you gonna reconcile that? I was talking to a fellow who wanted to vote for ABC. He was an ABC voter who is the ruling party, and Mayor Ken Sim is part of the organization called ABC. So they're deeply unpopular, no one really likes them, but they have a majority on council right now, and he's like, at least they have a majority and they can get shit done, right? So his attitude was like, having a majority on council is better than having a diverse council where there's differing opinions. And that's like the exact mindset that leads to dictatorships and, fascist governments, totalitarian governments, is like, at least, like with Mussolini, the argument was always like, at least the trains are running. Like Mussolini got the trains to run on time, is what people say, right? People should get involved with local politics because it's the closest form of government to the people. There's no other level of government that has such an impact on your life, I think. I have a lot of friends that like conscientiously object to voting. It's not like they just don't vote because they forget or they're apathetic. They say like, I'm actively not going to choose to vote. Like they're choosing not to vote. I think is valid to an extent at the federal or the provincial level, but municipally, it doesn't make any sense. Like, you've got to vote in a municipal election, because I think that the fact we have a mayor right now who's deeply unpopular is an expression of low voter turnout and people not showing up to vote. Civic politics is deeply unsexy. Like, it's not necessarily the most attractive in terms of like the issues that are getting discussed. What's on the ballot is never that cool, I don't think, at least compared to like the sensationalized politics that we see in the States and that we see at the federal level to an extent. It's important because it's close to our lives and we can actually have a really direct impact on it. I'll give you an example. Is like, a lot of people are complaining right now about some of the rezonings in the city of Vancouver. And so there's these rezonings that are set to demolish affordable housing, like low-rise affordable buildings, and they're gonna replace those buildings with big luxury high-rises, right? And the people who live in those buildings don't wanna get them evicted, right? They don't wanna get kicked out of their house in order to get a big tower built there. If you elect a council who won't approve those rezonings, then your problem's been solved. It's a pretty easy equation to me. You don't want to get them evicted, elect a council who's not going to approve these ridiculous dem evictions. Easy. But so that's why we need to get organized. Some aspects of campaigning, a lot of public speaking and like going around and doing like community engagement and shaking hands and talking to people about, just talking to people in the street about like the woes of their life and like why it's so severe for them to live in the city. In case you haven't noticed, like urban life has become really fucking intense for a lot of people and they're having a hard time right now. I think I really enjoyed talking to those people, figuring out like how people make it through the week. What is it that they do? Like, do they go to the sauna? They have a nice dinner, a Sunday dinner with their family? Do they go for a big run? Or maybe they go for a swim in the ocean. Like, what's that thing that allows people to operate? Or what's that thing that's just like, really bugging them? They're like, there's not enough curb cuts in the city. I use a wheelchair, and when there's not enough curb cuts, it completely reduces my ability to navigate the city. Or, they reduce the hours of operation at my local community center. And that bugs me because I work late and I used to go and it used to be open until 10. It's a long-winded answer, but I've really enjoyed just talking to people on the street. This city is a beautiful, really beautiful city. It's a lot of vibrancy and there's all sorts of people here. So during the campaign, I got to talk to them and I really valued that. Like, I really, really valued that.